He had unbelievable talent. He had a great personality. He had the work ethic. He had the character. He had everything we were looking for.
He was a leader, and led from a vocal standpoint or just doing what he was supposed to do. Him being fired up got all of us fired up, and we kind of followed suit.
Camp takes the snap, looking for the receiver. He's got Lutzenkirchen. Touchdown Auburn! Touchdown Auburn! Lutzenkirchen! He threw it back across the field. 7-yard play. Touchdown Tigers! We're tied at 27.
They had after the touchdown, but then as soon as he did that, he gathered himself and turned around. Where are my teammates? I want to celebrate with my teammates. And so that one play in and of itself kind of embodied who Philip was, both as a person and a football player.
He kind of had it all. He was a great guy. You know, his teammates loved him. He worked hard. He was an outstanding football player and athlete.
Mosley on the play action, goes in front, Lutzenkirchen 10, Lutzenkirchen 5, rolling to the goal line, he's in! Touchdown Auburn!
And he just was a huge goofball. If he wasn't having fun doing what he was doing, he wasn't going to enjoy it, and he wasn't going to pursue it. So he loved football, and he had a lot of fun doing it, and he always had a smile on his face, and he was always trying to cheer his teammates up and get the crowd going by smiling and laughing, and he never took himself too seriously, and I think that's what people really appreciated about him.
He left a mark of love. Like, he showed everybody love. He showed the custodians in the football field love. He showed his teachers love. He showed his teammates love. He showed his classmates love. He showed his opponents love. Like, he just left love. And I think that's why losing him it's obviously very hard, but his legacy of love and his impact was amazing.
In motion from left to right. Cameron's going to roll. Here comes pressure from behind. He'll throw it back across to Lutzenkirchen. Makes the catch at the tail of the 5. He's in! Touchdown Tigers!
You look back and reflect on his legacy, and you see the impact he's made on his community, and you, at least for me, I started to think, well, you know, why is that? What is it about Philip? And I think that it just comes down to one single thing, and it's selflessness. It was never about him, it was about everyone else.
Him having that big of an influence and having this platform being on the football team, he used it to the best of his ability. He really helped out a lot of kids through either cancer patients or Down syndrome or just anyone down on their left who was able to always say hi, help them out.
He would meet somebody for the first time and you left me like, man, Philip's one of my really good friends. He made people feel like that. And I think that's why losing him impacted so many people, because it's so easy to just make yourself available to people, and he did that. And I think that's why his impact is so big.
That type of personality just, it's infectious and it radiated throughout this community, and the fact that he was also a successful football player just gave him that much higher of a pedestal in which to display those qualities and leave a mark here that I think will last forever.
I'd much rather be known for what I've done off the field and impacting other people's lives than how many touchdowns or how many catches I've had.
All right, good afternoon. So it's a rainy day outside. I know I'm between you and food trucks, but I'm going to take some time to tell who Philip was, and hopefully you tight ends, or the tight ends in the room. Do all these guys on this team know that Philip's on that wall in that tight end room? One of 3 in the history of this program. But to give you guys a flavor, I think, of how athletic Philip was, I'm going to brag on him a little bit, but then I'm going to get into a message of this talk, is I'd love to show you one more video. That video was created after Philip's memorial service that 3,500 people attended at Lassiter High School after we lost him in a single vehicle crash. And I'm going to clearly articulate to you the difference so you know what a crash is versus an accident. I'm going to give you some specific examples and one that's recently up the road here. But I want to show a clip real quick, if they would, of Philip making one play during his career here at Auburn. It was his junior year. So if you'd show that clip, I'd appreciate it.
Play fake to Dyer, they throw off Lutzenkirchen. Did he get it? Yeah, touchdown! Philip Lutzenkirchen. Did he catch that with one hand? Yes, he did. Behind his back. That ball was thrown behind him, and he just snatched it, didn't even bother to bring it into his body, and then extended it. That was amazing. Hopefully he didn't hurt himself. It looks like he's holding that arm a little gingerly. What a play. He deserved it. He was an integral part in the running game in that entire drive. Feed the big fella once you get down there. Reward him. Second touchdown catch tonight for Philip Lutzenkirchen. And the 12th of his career. And this has gotten away from Ole Miss in the second half. Here's another look at that play for Lutzenkirchen. He's lining up all over the field, comes in motion, sneaks out, just in the flat. Watch it, catch. And then he changes hands and extends the pylon. They won't not see it, Auburn. 3 catches tonight, 2 of them for touchdowns. That last one as pretty as you'll ever see. He does a great stride when he catches that ball, and then changes hands and extends to the pylon. And I'll tell you, Philip Lutzenkirchen is going to be a prized possession at the next level. I think he has all the talent in the world to play in the National Football League because of his versatility. He's smart, he can block and catch. He's just going to be a tremendous addition to the team in the National Football. Then you see 12 to 37 receptions for a touchdown. That's a pretty good percentage.
Yeah, you said it, but for example, all he does is catch touchdowns.
So I want to show that to you to brag a little bit about Philip and his athleticism. He had monster hands, but most importantly, you are Philip. He is you. He came to this school. He could have gone anywhere in the country. He's a high school All-American out of the Atlanta area. And he said to me, Dad, if for some reason I can't play football, Auburn's where I want to go. It's in the SEC. It's not Georgia. He told Mark Richt, don't recruit me. I'm not going to Georgia. His sister was at Georgia. No love lost there. They love each other. He had a lot of friends from high school, but he wanted to come here because there's something special about Auburn, Alabama. There's something special about the Plains. And you guys are part of this. And I wanted you to see that. And I hope you'll go in the room, even if you're not a tight end at some point, and maybe high-five that picture of Philip on that wall. It means a lot to my family and I. But I think it's important to tell you, I'm going to get into the details that took Philip's life because it's very concerning to me. This whole NIL era, this whole transfer era, that didn't exist when Philip played. And I think it's important to share that. But I want you to know who he was because he had a weekend where he made terrible decisions and it took his life. But one of the things our family did right away is we created a curriculum called 43 Lessons to Legacy. Coach Burns wrote in that curriculum. Nick Saban wrote in that curriculum. Tom Rinaldi, some people you'd know, some of you wouldn't even know. And it did about 200 talks, mostly to high school teams. Georgia calls me to talk. Clemson calls me to talk. ESPN picks it up. And they put us on the map to go make a difference in what we were trying to do with Philip's story. And it was trying to impact guys like you. But just to give you some perspective, I only show that video when I talk to college football. I don't show it to high school football. I don't show it to a fraternity. I speak here twice a year at a thing called Auburn Man. Anybody in the Greek system here? As a true freshman, you have to go through Auburn Man. It's a 5-week program, 6 p.m. on Monday nights. You got to check in or you get penalized, your fraternity gets penalized. And I become one of the speakers, and I'm always proud to come down here and do this. Another era that Philip is here. School of Communication and Journalism major graduate. He graduated 3.5 years. We've now given out 17 $4,300 scholarships through a semester-long public speaking competition in the School of Communication and Journalism. So we're so well connected at Auburn. I want to thank Coach, because I've not been here to speak since Gus Malzahn was a coach here. So it's been a while. And all these talks started out talking to high school kids that look like you. But 2 weeks ago, I was in New York. Con Edison, 500 employees. They're the team that goes out in these large trucks, and they go up climbing buckets, and they make sure New York City's lit up with electricity. If they don't follow the protocols of being safe doing their job, they lose their life. And that company has failed to say, yeah, you got to get to the job safe before you can even get in that bucket truck, and you got to get back safe and not be in crashes or accidents. I didn't show that video about football, but I'm going to tell them very much what I'm telling you today, and I'm going to have you guys guess at a word in just a minute that my daughter said, one of the daughters said in that describes Philip's character, and I'm going to give you a story to think about to see if maybe you can look in a mirror and does that word of character define who you are. And last week, I spoke at a conference, the UFMCA conference in Williamsburg, Virginia. And the fact that it's our 250th anniversary of independence coming up July 4th, there's a lot of history there. Williamstown, Yorktown, and that touched my heart. And that audience was all the companies that put large fleets out in the utility space. Very different audience, but similar talk that I'm going to give to you about that audience. And I won't stick around tonight because I've got to get back to Atlanta where I live, and tomorrow I'll have about 90 trauma surgeons and personnel that do not want to see a college-age student coming into their emergency room because you made a poor decision behind the wheel of a vehicle. So the talk is called Philip's Legacy. What legacy are you leaving? And the fact that he's on the wall in that tight end room tells you he had a legacy on the field. But I want to tell you a story, and as I tell you this story, I want you to think about a word that begins with A that might have described Philip's character after I get done with the story. And what I hope you'll do is you'll go home tonight and put that cell phone down for a good period of time so you can sleep well and not be fatigued, and see if this word would define who you are. And when you think about it, and we give it to you, not all the tight ends, because you all work together, not all the old linemen or the DBs, but maybe anybody in this room that you're not in the same position group, or you're not a starter and you're new and you're fighting your way up. Would this word of character describe who you are? See, a little background, Philip. High school All-American. Went to Lassiter High School. Came down to Auburn, played in all but 2 games his freshman year. Played a key role in 2010 national championship team that most everybody associates with Cam Newton. Jarrell, Cody were on that team. Mike was on that team. And he put his name on the map. Had an opportunity to become a captain his junior year and his senior year, elected by coaches and by teammates. Auburn went 8-5 Philip's junior year. You may find it hard to believe, but as a tight end H-back, he was the MVP of that team. So that was the quality of player he was. Coach Chiswick submitted his name to the NFL Advisory Board that year. And back in that day, they came back and said, you're most likely to be a 3rd-round draft pick. And Philip never seriously thought about it because he said, Dad, if I come back, I'll have my degree before I even start the summer before my senior year. I'm going to be a captain again, Dad, and I don't want to be a 3rd-round pick. I want to be a 1st-round pick. I want to win the John Mackey Award as the #1 tight end in college football. And then he had a first major curveball in his life thrown to him that year. Torn shoulder labrum, torn hip labrum, played 6 games. Wasn't a 1st-round draft pick. Wasn't drafted at all. Went as a free agent to the St. Louis Rams, and he was the last player cut that year. And he called me because I went and watched his last game in St. Louis against Green Bay, and he had one of those one-handed catches on the sideline that I said, man, that's father's ego speaking up. That's going to put him in the league. And he called and said, what's going on? I said, what's up with you? He goes, I just got cut. And I must have had a quiver in my voice. And at that point in my life, I didn't cry much. My dad was a full-time fireman in Chicago. He said, I can't say the word he'd say if you cried. It's not repeatable even in this audience. And he said, why are you crying? I said, you got cut. He goes, it doesn't matter. I'm done with football, Dad. I'm hurt. I don't know if I'm going to get better. I wasn't that fast in the first place. Got my degree. I'm going down to Montgomery, Alabama. I'm going to look for a job. And he took a job in Montgomery, Alabama. But before I get into that weekend that he chose to go to a farm in LaGrange, Georgia, I want to tell you a story about Philip because I believe you have the same platform that Philip Lutzenkirchen had at Auburn Football. It's because that's what Auburn gives you. That's what Division I football gives you. That's what the SEC gives you, and you can earn it. And Philip called me. He was supposed to be going to the beaches his junior year down to 30A or Gulf Shores or something, probably 3.5 hour drive at most from here. And he said, Dad, I'm going to come home tomorrow, and Friday morning I want you to join me in meeting a young girl. I found out I'm her favorite player. I said, what do you know about this young girl? He goes, Dad, I don't even know her age, quite frankly, but I know she's hurting. So he came home Thursday, which is 2 hours out of the way from going to the beaches, back to Atlanta. He's a 20-year-old male. I remember what I was like at 20 years old, and I'm starting to think, you can't tell me much about this girl. You want me to go meet you, to go with her to meet her, and what are we going to learn? And we pull up to this Starbucks on that Friday morning about 8 o'clock. It's cold out. He's in a t-shirt. He's in shorts. He looks like he's already ready to go to the beach. And I'm thinking, what's this 20-year-old kid of mine going to even listen to, let alone tell this young lady? Because as we got out of the pickup truck, we saw this beautiful little girl. She was 10 years old. She had a baseball cap on. Mom and Dad were standing next to her, and it picked up real quick what was going on. The first thing you noticed was this beautiful smile, because she was getting to meet one of you guys, an Auburn football player, her favorite player. That's what the fan base thinks of you guys. That's what you're representing each and every day. Yourself, your family, this football program, the university. And I'm just watching Philip because he had really no reaction, and normally he was always smiling, wanted to high-five people. And under that smile, what I noticed most about this little girl was underneath this baseball cap was a completely bald head. I hope you'll Google her later. Her name is Bailey Moody. She was 10 years old. You should write that down, Bailey Moody. And I'll give this up front to you. She's a little bit of a hellion. She's already graduated from the University of Alabama, but back then she was only 10 years old. And I figured out right away, this young girl's probably dealing with cancer. I watched Philip hug her, walk to the Starbucks and sit down with her. I sat with the parents, Patrick and Tiffany, first time meeting them. Found out the reason that Bailey was a big Auburn fan is that Tiffany played soccer here at Auburn. Found out her dad, Patrick, Division I baseball player at the Citadel. And they started telling me what was going on. As I was listening to them, I'd peek over at Philip, really not showing much emotion. His back was to me. Wasn't hugging her. I didn't see him smiling, didn't see him high-fiving. But he looked like he was really listening. But I still thought, right? 20-year-old male. 17, 18 to 23-year-old males, I don't know how well we listen. So I was really concerned about what was going to come, the outcome of this meeting. And the parents told me, Mike, Bailey was playing 3 sports already, and she came home. We're Division I athletes. She complained about pain above her right knee. You guys probably had something like this with your parents at one time or another. And what do you think they said to her? Suck it up. You're hurt. There's no bruise. You're just sore. And after about 3 days of doing that, they find maybe there's more to this. So they took her to the doctor, and that's when they diagnosed she had a tumor above her right knee. And she had already been through chemo, and that's why she was bald. And the chemo wasn't going to remove the tumor. So there's Philip sitting that Friday morning with her, and the parents said, Mike, there's really 2 options, but both options start with the same thing. They're going to amputate her leg above the knee. I didn't watch everybody walk in here, but do me a favor, look down at that right knee and think about just walking down to a food truck after this, when you know that they're going to amputate that right leg. Think about playing on SECs or taking the field up in Atlanta against Baylor to open the season. So my mind kind of shifted, like, here's my son, he wants to be the number 1 pick in the draft. He came back. He turned down potential money to go to the NFL. And what's he saying to this young girl? Because the next option was, Mike, they can amputate her leg and give her an artificial leg, and as she gets taller, they'll replace it with a prosthetic leg, and she'll always walk balance. She wears pants, nobody will even know it. She could probably still do some sports. But the other option was a little more radical. So as I say this to you, do me a favor, really stare at that right knee and envision looking down at that knee, and they tell you, hey, we removed the lower portion of your leg, now we're going to remove the ankle and foot from that lower portion, and we're going to surgically place it where your knee is the rest of your life. And as you look down at that knee, you don't see a knee, you see the bottom of your foot with the palm of your foot, the bottom of your foot facing outward. It's called rotation plasty. And the doctor said, we think that through rehab, Bailey might be able to maybe play more sports than if we just give her an artificial leg. Can you imagine being entrusted with a little girl? You're sitting there. You guys are close to Philip's age. Some of you are older than Philip when he was doing this. And the advice you'd give her. And we walked out of that Starbucks and I had tears in my eyes. My son, I think the guys that knew him could attest to this. He looked at me, he said, Dad, are you crying? There's no crying in a Starbucks parking lot. Let's go, I got to get to the beach. And I pressed him, and I tell this all the time to people. My girls know I do this. I got 3 beautiful girls. My son was my best friend. My son is my best friend to this day. And he didn't tell me that day what he said. His go-to line was, "Dad, I got this." "You got what?" "Don't worry about it, I got this." And off he went to the beaches. Then he plays 6 games his senior year. Then he gets cut by the Rams. Then he goes down to Montgomery and starts a job. Did a little community coaching down there with a kid that ended up coming here to play tight end. Was loving life. But at his funeral service, with an open casket behind me, here comes Tiffany and Patrick and Bailey. She's now 12. And when you go and Google her, you're going to find out now she's a 24-year-old beautiful woman. And she had the radical surgery. And she's played in 2 Olympics on the U.S. Women's Paralympic wheelchair basketball team. And she was an All-American and won a national championship or 2 at the University of Alabama. And when you Google her picture, you're going to see she wore 43 at Alabama. And she wore 43 on the U.S. Women's Paralympic team because of what Philip's character was and that word that describes it. And when I get to go talk to high school kids and college kids, I get concerned a little bit, and I'll be honest with you, I'm Catholic and I'm Christian, and I grew up in Chicago and I've lived in Atlanta 30 years. Let me test you real quick. Who can tell me what tithing is? What does the word tithing mean? Any other Catholics in here? To give back. To give back what? You got it right. To give back to the church. I don't think everybody goes to the church. And here's my concern about most of you, I think, even in today's day and era. There's typically people say there's 3 words that begin with T that define tithing. And I think you probably know it. What are those 3 words? Somebody give me one of them. What's a word that begins with T that defines tithing? Time. I don't know how much time you guys have. Don't have time to go get a job. You're student athletes. You're working out in the summer. You're going to classrooms. So I get concerned about your age group and the ability to have time. Anybody want to guess another word that begins with T? How about treasure? This one's unique for me to share a treasure because some of you guys already have treasure in today's college athletic world. But most of you guys in high school and then get to college, you don't have treasure. You're students. You don't have time to go get a job. So you don't have that cash yet. So time and treasure. But here's the third T everyone in this room has. I'm not sure you know it yet, but the third word is talent. So a lot of people believe that tithing begins with time, treasure, and talent. But as I told that story, and I want you to think about that character word that begins with A, there's a 4th word that begins with T that even at your age group and high school kids, I think really wraps up that you can tithe, even if you don't go to church. So Bailey went on to have great success. She publicly speaks. And Patrick came up to me at that funeral with Philip behind me, and he says, "Mike, there's a word that begins to describe who your son was with character. It begins with A. Before I tell you that word," he says, "I want to tell you, you may not know this, but after Bailey had that surgery, Philip came from Auburn back to Atlanta 5 times. Why she was rehabbing. A 10-year-old little girl at that time. Not once did Philip tell Mary and I about it. He didn't brag about it. He just did it. And he didn't have any time. You guys know you don't have time in this world of college football. He didn't have any treasure. He had my truck. I was paying for gas. Took no talent to drive from Auburn to Atlanta. It took this 4th word with T that all of you have within you. I just don't know yet if you know how to release it. And then Patrick, I said, "Patrick, you said there's a word that describes Philip. And I want you to envision this conversation real quick. There's my wife greeting people with tears in her eyes. There's my 3 daughters. Some people I don't even know who's coming to see my son because of this Auburn family. But I had courage to say, "Patrick, tell me what the word is." And he broke down crying. He couldn't tell me. And he never told me. Until 2 weeks later, he called me. He said, "Mike, if you're alone, I want to tell you what that word is." The word begins with A that describes your son's character. Who can tell me, what do you think a word that begins with A might have described Philip's character in that story with Bailey? And the one that had tears streaming down her eyes said it in the video. Anybody pick up on it? Somebody throw out a word that begins with A that might describe your character. This is the interactive part. Come on, you guys are all bright. You wouldn't be at Auburn as student athletes if you weren't bright. What's a word that begins with A that might describe your character? It's tough sitting in the front row.
Aware.
Aware. It's a good word. I've never had that, quite honestly. That's not what I'm looking for, though. But thank you for opening. Give me one. Somebody over here, give me a word that begins with A that you think might describe your character. Authentic. That's a great word. Philip was very authentic in many ways, but that's not it. When you speak in Alabama, because of the crazy state that it is with either Roll Tide or War Eagle, Alabama, Auburn, I usually get some clown that yells out to me, Alabama, and that's not a word of character. That's a foul word. It's a dirty word. And my daughter, Abby, in that video, she played soccer at Alabama. So I love Alabama, but still, it's not Auburn. The word is available. Available. A man in front of me couldn't tell me because he broke down and calls me to say, he didn't say this, but your 20-year-old son who came and visited my daughter, he didn't have any time. It took no talent. It took no treasure. It took tenderness in his heart to go do this. And I don't care who's the biggest, baddest dude in this room. Everybody has tenderness in their heart for something. It's whether you're going to be available to let it out. Because you know what? It'll eliminate, you don't think you have time. It will eliminate, you don't think you have treasure to go do something. And it'll make sure whatever level of talent it takes to go give to somebody else and serve somebody else, you can do it. It's tenderness. That's my definition of some of you guys still being teenagers, teen tithing. Works at high school. I think it works with you guys. So I hope that you're jotting down, how can I be more available? How can I knock the crap out of somebody across from me, pick them up and say, man, hope you're okay. I'm coming back for more. It's holding the door on this campus for females. It's telling that professor at the end of class, whether you thought they did a good job or not, that said, hey, thanks for investing in me today. It's telling your strength staff. It's telling anybody that serves you a meal out there, thank you. I appreciate you being available to serve my hunger needs. Tenderness and available, I think, are two critical words. See, Philip, because of Auburn, because of his career, had become a celebrity. My son died on June 29, 2014. And I probably missed not sending a slide here, but I want to tell you how we learned about it, because I think it's important. And then I'm going to get into what's the definition between a crash and an accident. See, we went to church that Sunday morning at Transfiguration Catholic Church up in Marietta. When they pulled in their driveway on a beautiful Sunday morning, Philip's living in Montgomery, Alabama. My two older girls have already graduated from UGA. Another one played soccer at Winthrop University, D1 athlete. They were home with us that weekend. They both lived in Atlanta in separate places we were working. And we pulled in that driveway. I've known my wife since we were 8 years old. I've never been on another date. Been married 42 years. We pulled in that driveway and Mary says, Mike, there's something on our front door. So I pulled up short. Instead of going into the garage, Mary got out to go to the front door and she was going to meet us in the house. And immediately, before I pulled in the garage, I turned back to Amy and Ann and said, where was Philip last night? See, Philip was living in Montgomery. And my last conversation was Friday about this time on June 27th. And we had kind of that normal conversation in the van. My wife's sitting there, are you eating right? Are you still working out? Dad, I'm eating right. I'm losing weight. I'm done playing football. Don't ask me again to come home and get healthy. I'm done. I got a great job. I'm going into wealth management. What are you going to do this weekend? I'm probably going to stay here in Montgomery. I'm going to go back to Auburn. He loved Auburn. Everything about Auburn. And that was my last conversation with my son. And Mary met us in the house and pulled a Post-it note off our front door. All you guys know what a Post-it note is, right? For old guys like me, I write my grandkids' social security numbers on it. I put passwords to my computer, which probably shouldn't do. I actually put on my anniversary so I don't forget to get my wife a card. But see, this Post-it note had a phone number on it. We walked out of our deck that beautiful Sunday morning. There's my wife, and there's Amy and Ann, and our youngest one is on a bus between Jacksonville, Florida, and Atlanta, because back in those days, she had already had 2 surgeries her freshman year at Alabama playing soccer. They let her play a semi-pro soccer game. So as I tell this, I want you to think about a minute of a couple people. I want you to think about what's going through Abby's mind. I want you to think about what's going through her coach's mind on that bus. I don't even know his name because Abby doesn't normally play with him, but he's coach. And I dialed that number on our deck, and the gentleman said, "Sir, you need to take down another number." And I said, "I'm not taking down another number. Tell me what's going on." And I knew this wasn't good because I knew 706 was just across the border, 85, which you're going to go on a bus to go play Baylor on in Atlanta. That was Troup County, Georgia. That was LaGrange. Anybody from Troup County or LaGrange? I said, "Sir, I'm not taking down this another number." I was probably rude to him. I said, "Tell me what's going on." He said, "Sir, take down another number." So I ultimately repeated out loud so the girls could repeat it back. Probably hung up on this guy rude and dialed that next number, and this voice was crystal clear. He said, "Mr. Lutzenkirchen?" When you could say that name clear, I knew this was about Philip. He said there was a crash last night, not an accident. He said there was a crash last night, and Philip is dead. A Post-it note. Your best friend, your only boy, dead. The guy you saw making plays. Your girlfriend in life falls to her knees. The daughter Ann in there, tears coming to her eyes, whiter than any shirt in this room. And my daughter Amy, who wasn't in it, and I'll put her up as far as toughness goes against anybody in this room, she screamed so loud. Our next door neighbor, Mrs. Terry Fitzgerald, came running over. And I estimate it was probably about 10 minutes till I realized my daughter Abby was sitting on a bus by herself. Wasn't smart enough to think, God, has she already learned about this through social media? Has somebody already texted her? And I called her and woke her up. And I didn't ask her my normal questions. Was a D1 soccer player? Did you win? How'd your ankle hold up? How'd your surgically repaired hip hold up? Did you score? Did you lead? See, and that's important, that word lead, because when Philip passed away, we knew we were going to do a foundation within 48 hours. And very quickly, I think our girls said, "Dad, you know what we're going to do? The mantra of the foundation is live like Lutz, love like Lutz, and lead like Lutz." And I think Mike and Jarrell and Cody would tell you, even as a freshman, Philip was a leader. He was always leading. And I've been asked so many times over the last 12 years, are you mad at your son? And my answer, absolutely, I'm not mad at my son. But you know what I wish he would have done? I wish he would have led that weekend when he got to that farm and said, "I want everybody's keys. Give me your keys. You'll get these back at 5 o'clock Sunday when we leave tomorrow, and don't follow me." And he would have brought those keys back out on Sunday, and there'd be no foundation. He'd be alive. I wouldn't be here. Live like Lutz, love like Lutz, and lead like Lutz. And Abby, I woke her up, and I didn't ask her those questions. I want you to think a minute, for why is my dad calling me, waking me up, not asking me about anything about the soccer game I just played, but asked me one thing. The only other girl I knew on that bus was Tess. I said, "Where's Tess sitting?" And God's got a plan. Tess was across the aisle. So think a minute about Tess. Why is this old ogre, who I only met her a couple times, why does he want to talk to me? One simple reason. Tess, would you take your phone to the front to your coach? I assumed he was at the front of the bus. What's going through her mind? What's Abby doing at that point? All because of Philip's decisions. And I had to say to this coach, "Sir, I apologize. I don't know your name. But my boy's dead, and my baby girl's on your bus." She sat on that bus for 5 hours. I don't think anybody loved her. She probably got bombarded with social media, with people calling her. Her big hero, dead. Because of a crash, not an accident. And if you follow the news, there's a young man by the name of Aiden Doss. Anybody chance to know that name? just finished a 4-year career playing football down at Huntington College. He wasn't as talented as you guys, but he played D3 football. And he was known on that campus as a leader. He was heavily involved in student government. He was a greeter when new freshmen would come to that campus, even though he's playing football in the fall. He wanted to be a part to welcome kids to that little 1,000-student school. And he graduated. And 3 days later, 2 weeks ago, he came up to go to a wedding up in this area. And I don't know all the details, but he left that wedding at some point, and he drove away. And I don't know if he was speeding. I don't know if he drank at the wedding. I don't know if he was fatigued, but he went off the road. And he was killed. And what I do know is he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. You guys are so blessed. Because you realize, right, to have access to a vehicle you drive is not a right, it's a privilege. How many of you guys have a driver's license? Probably should be everybody, right? Is your signature on that driver's license? Right? You know why? Because you gave a commitment to wherever you came from, Florida, California, Alabama. If you're here from Alabama, you told the governor, Kay Ivey, I'm going to follow the rules of the road as a driver here because it's not my right to have this license, it's a privilege. And see, this young man, from everything I was told, was an incredible human being. And whatever caused him to go off the road wasn't an accident that they're reporting. See, an accident is when you're on the road and you got a decision to make if a deer comes across in front of you. And do you go through that deer or do you swerve and attempt to miss that deer? That's an accident. And by the way, the road safety advocates will tell you go through the deer. Your level of survival increases immensely if you go through it. And I don't know that that young man was in a crash, but all the details the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency reporting suggests it's a crash. But I knew one thing. Had he had a seatbelt on, he had 99% chance of survival. You're pretending you're a driver, you're behind that wheel. Reach to your right shoulder, left shoulder, come down to your right hip with me. Ready? How long did that take? 2 seconds. It's a 2-second habit. 61% of the people that die on U.S. roads weren't wearing a seatbelt. Appreciate the honesty in this room. Raise your hand in the last week if you've been somewhere in a vehicle other than the driver's seat and you didn't wear a seatbelt. Front passenger seat, back seat. So most of you guys are wearing seatbelts in the back seat? That's bullshit. You got to wear seatbelts, guys. See, you go from talking to high school football teams about what your son did that weekend, to the University of Georgia, to Clemson, to NFL teams. And then you realize you get to 2017, 3 years later, in the state of Alabama as an example, you're going to see a road sign that says, "Drive safe, Alabama." No kidding. And you've all probably heard click it or ticket. You text, you pay, drive sober, get pulled over. But see, in our country, we don't have an all-encompassing program. So you get to this point, and somebody says, "Mike, are you satisfied with the foundation's accomplished? Are you concerned about Philip's relevancy?" This was a track when you guys were 2 and 3 years old, when Philip was here. A track. Now look at it. By a show of hands, even in the tight end room, who knew who Philip was before coming to Auburn? Anybody? Got a few. So that relevancy question really hit home with me. And I come from a world of IBM. And IBM, when you lead a team, like coach leads a team, you get to the end of the year, maybe it's already Halloween, and your team's made their number for the year. And it was a short-lived celebration because you knew when the new calendar came, they were going to give you a bigger number to go get. So we knew we could do more. And what we identified is in our country, we don't have a single image that triggers you to be a smarter and safer driver. And most of you have license. So do me a favor. Somebody tell me, what's the image that you look at triggers you to be a smarter and safer driver? Or conversely, not to be distracted, impaired, or unsafe? What's a symbol?
Picture yourself on your license.
Picture you're looking at your license when you're driving?
No.
But that's what triggers it? Okay. Who else? Offensive lineman? You need a better helmet. What's an image? Who's from Florida? What's an image down in Florida when you're driving triggers you to say, hey, I got to put my cell phone down, or I got to put my seatbelt on? Shy? Not sure. That's a right answer, right? Who else? Go ahead.
Police officer.
Police officer. Number one answer, high school and college, blue lights behind me. That's the image. That's too late. One more, somebody had their hand up.
See like a deer crossing sign?
Okay, you see a deer crossing sign, right? It's a trick question. We don't have a consistent symbol in this country that when you look at it, especially, you're still considered inexperienced new drivers, 25 and under. That's this audience. And yet in this great country we have where everything's a symbol, that symbol's as powerful as it is. This symbol right here, people that go to Auburn, they say to me, War Eagle, you must be Philip's dad, or you must be associated with the foundation. And then the people that really don't know say, I must be a NASCAR fan. I don't even know who 43 is in NASCAR. Symbols, images. So we pivoted and said, hey, we're going to use Philip's story, but we want Auburn football to be safe when they're on the roads, when you have that privilege to drive that vehicle. So what we did is we put a key, 43 key seconds, Philip's number here at Auburn, Auburn colors. Now on the back of this key it says 43, too distraction free. So that's the image. But to support that image, and hopefully you're going to start seeing this more and more, if I get the Alabama DOT and Alabama law enforcement agency to realize Drive Safe Alabama is okay, but most people look at it, there's no human being behind it. I think the average college kid, if I could be frank for a minute, there's some young ears in here, but can't be that frank. I said, what does Drive Alert Arrive Alive mean to you? And he said, no, ends in T, begins with S. Sir, it's too irrelevant. I don't even think about it. So what we did is we said, hey, before you start your vehicle, and every one of you is going to get this, I'm going to tell you what I hope you'll do with it. It says before you start your vehicle, take 43 key seconds to ask yourself, do I have a clear head? Do I have clear hands? Do I have clear eyes? And then we do tie in a 20-year program called Click It or Ticket. And I'm not going to take you through the whole thing, but what does a clear head means? And especially you guys being in this room, this concerns me, some of these. Not this one. Am I drug impaired? Am I alcohol impaired? I'm not worried about those right now. But for you guys, am I fatigued? Am I emotionally impaired? Hey, my girlfriend caught her with another guy. Or wow, man, I should be higher in the depth chart. Now your emotions are off. And then every one of you, I think, anybody not have a cell phone? Every one of you, I'm going to bet, is if you're not technology impaired, you're technology challenged in that vehicle. Clear head, clear hands, clear eyes, and click it. You're going to get this. What I hope you'll do, I played college basketball and the coach said, very first day, if you do something for 21 days deliberately, it will become a habit, good or bad. You vape for 21 days, good luck trying to break that habit. You do something great, you set goals for yourself for 21 days, you're going to set goals for yourself on the 22nd day. You remove this card after you memorize this in this key and lanyard. Go in your vehicle in a spot that you can see it regularly. Alabama, you can't put it around your rearview mirror, so I hope you'll put it right in your cup holder or tape it to your dashboard. And here's how it works. Every time you see that key, you think you can pick up that phone to look at a text, or think you can be cool getting out of here Facebook Live and somebody, or you don't have yet the courage to say, hey, this is my truck. Put your seatbelt on. They give you a hard time, or the guys in the back seat, hey man, it's safer in the back seat. Let me eliminate that thought right away. My son was in the back seat, and Philip is dead. Had he had a seatbelt on, I'm not going to guarantee you what his physical condition would have been, but the odds are statistically he would have survived. This 43 at your age builds character, builds the courage to say, I'm going to be available to you. You can cuss me out all you want. We're late, four-letter word me, but put your seatbelt on. And where that seatbelt's discomforting or uncomfortable, you wish you had it on if you go to a friend's funeral that wasn't wearing a seatbelt. 43 key seconds. We started out again, right? live like Lutz, love like Lutz, and lead like Lutz. And because Philip was a celebrity, just like you guys have a chance to be, of what you do in the community, you meet the Bailey Moody's of the world, you meet the Devin Thomases of the world, you go give your time. You don't have to repeat what Phil does. But Phil called me one day and said, hey, Dad, can I meet you in Birmingham someday? I'm going to pick up a bunch of stuff that's autograph, Auburn stuff, and let's go to UAB, and let's go meet some children that were born less fortunate or developed cancer. I did that twice with him, once his junior year, once his senior year. And not because he had time or talent or treasure, but he had tenderness, and like you guys, he had a platform. But here's the challenge to me. We're often running with this foundation, talking to high school kids, talking to college, NFL. Hadn't even thought about corporate America yet. Talked to some churches. And you can go look, August 6th, 2014, USA Today. You guys might even know there was a USA Today. ESPN Sports Center. It wasn't about my favorite hometown Cubs score highlight. It wasn't about Mark Phelps' swimming achievements. It was Auburn's Lutzenkirchen's BAC. And who can tell me what BAC stands for? Come on, you guys had health class in high school. Blood alcohol content. Who can tell me that you're considered legally drunk in Alabama if you read what number as a BAC? 0.08. Phillips wasn't 0.08. We didn't get a phone call from ESPN or USA Today. We didn't get a phone call from the Georgia State Patrol or the coroner this time. We simply saw it on the news. Sports Center, Auburn's Lutzenkirchen's BAC, 0.377. Somebody says, how's a guy who played at 6'4", 255, now down to 6'4", 230, get in the back seat of a Chevy Tahoe at 2:30 in the morning because the driver was backing out of his farm and wanted to go get a can of dip at the only place in this rural area that was open? And my answer is, I don't care. He got in it. It doesn't change the story. See, 4 kids with 9 other kids, and they drank throughout the day. And remember, love like Lutz, live like Lutz, lead like Lutz. Philip didn't show leadership that day. He jumped into that vehicle in the back seat behind the driver, and the driver went on rural roads. And I know this happened because the police said, Mike, please watch this surveillance of this store. And the driver walked in there and dropped all his change on the floor and picked it up, put it on the counter, got his can of dip. That's why he wanted to go out. All 4 kids were drunk. He got back in that vehicle in a rural road you don't have to go too far off this campus to be in. Stop sign, 45 miles an hour. Stop, go right, stop, go left, shallow ravine, small church. Took my wife and I 2 years to go to the site that took my son. I've pulled off that exit a dozen times over the last several years, and I always go right back over it. I can't go back. But see, the vehicle was going 77 miles an hour when the driver missed that stop sign. And the back end went over the front end when it hit the shallow ravine. And then it rolled over the passenger side, over the top of the vehicle, over the driver's side, over the bottom, 450 feet through the air. I want you to envision that. What's the length of a football field in feet? It's a test question. You should probably know that. 100 feet? 360? You're playing a Canadian league? 300 feet, right? 3 feet to a yard? That vehicle went more than a football field. And the one young man who was drunk in the passenger seat, front seat, that did the 2-second habit of his life where he reached to his right shoulder and came down to his left, he could be here today. He said, I crawled out this upside down vehicle with a massive headache and I ran for help. And when he got back, he tripped over the young girl that was fully ejected out of the back seat behind the passenger. She was unresponsive and she was read her last rites. By a miracle, she survived it. He saw his friend, the driver, who's on page 8 of an accident report like this, as a stick figure. I don't care where we're from, we've all done stick figures, right? round circular head, stick body, and above his bubble head it says his name and DOA for dead on arrival. And that friend never found Philip. Philip was found when first responders got there with the right lighting, because Philip was thrown more than 15 feet from the vehicle. Lead like Lutz. And when that came out, after we started this foundation with that BAC, we immediately went back into a black hole and said, how do we do this foundation? How do I come talk to you guys, or to corporate America, or to church groups, or to associations? But here's how God works. I jumped out of bed 2 days later, literally jumped out of bed at 2:30 in the morning. My wife's like, what is going on? And to see your wife go right back in that black hole. But I said, Mary, I got this. We're going to do this foundation. And it's not love like Lutz, live like Lutz, and lead like Lutz. It's love like Lutz, live like Lutz, and learn from Lutz. So you didn't know it. There's no letter grade of what you just heard. But this is education. And I'm all so for you guys making money, doing great things, but man, the responsibilities now, the toys you've got, I get concerned. How fast can you get a charger going? How much can you show off? But I hope being available to your teammates, being available to this Auburn family, being available to this community. And when you get cussed out by a friend, you stand strong and let this key drive you. I'm going to talk at Georgia Tech in a couple weeks. I'm probably going to SMU. Those are going to be great talks for me to go to, but they're not Auburn. My son was you. He looked like you. You feel like him. If you don't think this is true, go pull Jarrell aside. Go pull Mike Blank aside. Go pull Cody aside. They're his brothers. Brotherhood. Do you know how strong this brotherhood bond can be if you pick one person in this room you haven't been available to and you become available to now? Remember the Titans? When guys that didn't look together and the coach said, go learn something about him. Go learn about their family. That's being available. That's having tenderness in your heart. And that doesn't mean you're soft as a player. It means you care as a human. People that go to Auburn and come from Auburn, they serve others. My son served others. My goal here today was to serve you. You're in the heat of the summer, man. This is where you better have an outcome every day when you wake up and say, what do I want to do by the end of the day? And then you look in that mirror and say, did I accomplish that outcome? And you're going to be amazed if you start doing that and you say to yourself, I want to be available to more people, more things, more listening to my coach. You're going to be amazed at the outcomes you're going to start stacking each and every day. And when you get up to Atlanta at 3:30 Eastern time to kick the crap out of Baylor and let them know what this is all about, that this is Auburn, Philip's going to be there with you. Coach, thank you. God bless you guys. Coach, I gave one of these to Jeff. There might be some things in there that can be shared.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. What's your name?
Omar.
And where are you from?
I'm from here. This is my hometown.
Okay. Where'd you go to high school?
Auburn High.
Okay. What year?
I graduated last year.
Okay. So you're a true freshman?
Well, sophomore now.
Okay. Good for you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate those words. Yeah.
Appreciate you sharing.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. Appreciate it. Coach, thanks for staying.
It was amazing.
Thanks for staying here.
For real.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it.
You're great.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye, girls.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.